Hey, this is Mark from Misery Index, and you're listening to the Brutally Delicious podcast.
This meeting is being recorded.
Cool.
Sweet. We're all good to go. I've forgotten before, so I'm glad Rena reminded me. Anyway,
I have a job.
That's your job. I'm the brains and the beauty. Rena is the reminder. Anyway,
right. And the scapegoat.
And the scapegoat. Well, thank you for joining us, man. I really appreciate it. I guess we can just jump in. I will jump in if you want, because I absolutely love this record and been a big fan of the band forever. Complete Control out May 13th. Now that it's done and complete, how do you feel about it, and are you satisfied with the outcome?
Yeah, I mean, I think the artwork turned out really awesome. Matt Lombard is really killer, and he also had done some stuff in the past, Cradle of Filth, and which is artwork is completely different from that. The production has turned out exceeded expectations. It was a laborious journey to get there. We went back to Will Putney for this, and but the difference this time around is we used Jens Bogren for mastering, and that's sort of I love Putney, man. His productions are big and clean and killer, and but we heard Jens's work with some artists, namely he did some work with Sepultura, and it just kind of had this gritty, raw kind of thing while still being clean and produced. And so we gave it to him, and it was for some reason it was a real laborious process this time around, but we got there, and it turned out perfect, man. We had the dream team. It seems people like it, so yeah, I'd say I'm pretty pleased with how things are going.
That's pretty cool. How did the Century Media come about? Because this is your first record with Century Media, correct?
Yeah. Well, that was a long time coming, because Philip Schulte actually he tried to sign the band when I think he was working for Century Media just as a lowly AR guy way back in 2002, 2003. And so that was one of the labels that approached Misery Index at that time. And we were on Relapse. We actually started off on Nuclear Blast and then moved over to Relapse, and then on to Season of Mist. And our agreement was up, and Philip just came at us really strong, and was really passionate about what we were doing. Nothing against who we'd worked with in the past, man, because we love all the Season of Mist folks over there. But we'd done a couple albums with those guys, and we kind of did what we were going to do with Season of Mist. And Philip was really passionate, and we just thought, hey, let's give it a shot. I mean, we got nothing to lose really, to see how this is going to go too. So yeah, and he's really stoked about the record. He keeps messaging me and sending pictures of the vinyl, and so
that's great.
He's stoked about it, and that always helps, when the staff that are behind you are really passionate about it too.
Sure.
And again, the season, I'm not dogging the Season of Mist people or the Relapse people, because they were all great.
Right. No, I get that.
This is just the next phase for us,
I for some reason I got in late, Bruce.
Yeah.
But the first words I heard were Putney and Jens, and I was just like, hold on a second here. Had you worked with them before?
Yeah, just Putney. Putney did Rituals of Power, the last album, and it turned out really awesome. And we were just a big fan of Bogren, and what led us to that is we were doing. Putney was super busy, and we needed to get a master into Decibel Magazine. And so we had our friend Dennis mix up one of the tracks real quick for their Flexi series, and then he worked with Jens. And I'd always been a fan of Jens also, But they sent us this flexi thing back, and I was just like, I heard the mix before, and then I heard it after I got back from Jens, and I was just like, holy shit! Like, how does mastering even do that? I mean, it was just like, and I remembered that I really liked his work with Sepultura also, and so we were just like, you know what? Putney's going to do his thing. We're already like, under an agreement with him for him to take it all the way, mastering everything. So let's just like throw it at him and let's just do it and see what happens. And
Very cool.
we were pleased. Obviously, I mean, if you got the advance or you've heard the singles that are out, I mean, you hear it. It's pretty cool.
It's a beat.
Like a good mix of raw and produced, and it's still big and.
Sounds fucking.
We like
huge.
that. We don't want. We never wanted the record to sound like a computer.
Right.
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
That a bunch of computer instruments, or we got that kind of like tech sheen on it. We wanted it to be raw in your face, but have that modern touch to it, and that's what we achieved, I think.
So was this recorded in like a studio, like old school studio, or did you do it in your homes, or how was it kind of approached? Was it a hybrid approach?
Yeah, hybrid. Drums were recorded with Kevin Bernstein in Baltimore, Developing Nations. Full of Hell also go there. That's right down the street from Adams. That makes it like super easy. He's done some Pig Destroyer stuff too, I think. Anyways, and locally. I have a guy has a home studio set up that I've been using for years just for my guitar and vocal tracking, and he's really good at like pulling the right takes out of me, and if there's any editing needed, he knows how to do that properly. And he's the guy that kind of like got the record totally in shape to send off to Putney for mix, and he actually did the same. That was the same job last time, to take all the tracks, make sure everything is lined up perfect and packaged, and off to mixing and mastering. So yeah, that was basically it.
It's kind of refreshing, honestly. Like, because like you say, right now, so much metal is just computer everything, which is cool. Yeah. It allows people to write in their homes and get stuff done. But it's not as like you don't get some of that extra. I don't even know what's je ne sais quoi or whatever. I don't know what it is. Like you don't get the
rawness.
Yeah, there's not a word for it, but there's a feeling that happens when you hear it.
Well, it's called an overuse of tools, man. To a hammer, everything looks like a nail, and you can't approach things that way. It's like a multifaceted approach, and you have the right tools for the right job, and you shouldn't overuse those tools. If you want to reinforce the kick drum so it cuts a little better, cool. But maybe before you do that, make sure you got the right capture on that kick drum to begin with, and make sure it sounds right. Same goes for guitar DIs and that kind of thing.
Absolutely,
that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Rena?
So you guys have like thematics of like really going after the powers that be and like society sucks and so on. So I want to know what pisses you off most right now about life, about society, about the world.
Auto consent and complacency really is a huge problem, and part and parcel to that problem is in modern life you're presented with tons of distractions pretty much via the internet, and you're being catered to via certain algorithms and certain paid aspects, and it's shaping the way people are thinking about the world. And unfortunately, it's very difficult to step outside that and craft your own paradigm. You are heavily influenced by that. Everyone is. And simply disconnecting is not the answer either. That just means you're ignorant of the information that's in the world. So it's a conundrum, man. I don't have any solutions.
Yeah, but
It's just very frustrating to try to find quote unquote the truth,
Mhm.
and it just seems like you're constantly being sold snake oil. Um, and yeah, that's basically what we're reacting to. And for example, identity politics is like a huge hot button topic. Where someone's like in one in particular identity trait becomes like the sole function of their existence. And and I'm sorry, but think you are what you do. And things like sexuality or such is like 10% of like maybe who you are. And and I'm not saying you don't go out and like, if there's identities are being oppressed, by all means get out there and like let people know you exist and you deserve to be. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is there are larger issues at work, like in terms of class and inherited wealth and things like that, that are being totally masked by these I don't want to call them pseudo issues, but they're sub issues. They're sub issues. The that identity stuff is like not second, but third, fourth, or fifth in comparison to like wealth distribution.
Yeah.
Once
I guess like when
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what identity you are. Once you realize that the top 1% are screwing you
Mm,
and
yeah.
manipulating the whole system, so you stay screwed.
But I'm going to contest you a little bit on that, because can't those things like parallel exist, those issues? Like, because like
Yes.
you are completely right. Like the wealth distribution is a huge issue. It is a mass issue, whereas like your identity is an individual issue. But we live as individuals and we experience the world and everything around us and the system as individuals. So I wouldn't say that they are sub issues per se, because like until something that is really up in your face, like whether I get to be who I am, it's going to be harder for you to sort of grab onto those, what you think of the main issues, basically. That you need to get that individual feeling of comfort and belonging, basically, into the society that you are in, to care about those societal issues. What do you think about that?
I agree with you. And these issues can and do coexist. They are all out there. In terms of being like, reactionary to the world around me, I see, you do see a lot of overemphasis on what is low hanging fruit, things that don't need to be like thought about or investigated too in depth. Humans will gravitate towards that when it's easier to think about, when it's easier to point the finger and create a them and an enemy and things like that. When it's easier to come up with that, they'll glom onto it. And so these things kind of get overemphasized, especially if it's like I don't know what the right word, like appealing in some way, like like misery indexes and wealth disparity and things like that aren't really like sexy topics.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're more like something that an economist might find somewhat interesting, but it's not as sexy as, say, like your someone's racial or sexual oppression in society. But it's what's kind of what I feel is like not left out of the conversation, but way, 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 way underemphasized in all those conversations is like the class problem and the wealth distribution problem.
I hear you.
That fuel all that social stuff.
It's like it's sexy for a little while, because we did have Occupy Wall Street, and we had these for little bits of time we make it a phenomena, and maybe because it's such a big issue that I don't know if people are just like, meh, it is what it is. What am I going to do about it? Because what are we going to do about it? Have a global revolt? Because that's basically the only way to do it, or like, you know, we're not going to get people to revolt as long as we have people who vote people like Trump and Bolsonaro and all these other assholes and Putin into power. Yeah. You know?
And some would argue vote at all for participating in those systems, you know, as justifies the system itself.
I'll add this.
We're talking about a lot of complex issues right at the moment.
We are.
I'll add this in. Who remembers the Panama Papers?
Right. I was gonna say Panama Papers as an example. And
Anyone?
You know, who's asking about Epstein's accomplices anymore? You know, like who were the guys?
Exactly.
Who were the other guys? He wasn't alone at the freaking parties.
And that's what I mean. Like these sort of like we'll call them like social justice trends. Social justice, awesome. That needs to happen in many cases, but it's like, it's so disheartening when the Black Lives Matter signs go from the front yard into the garage.
Mm.
I've seen it. What I'm saying is I've walked the dog. I literally see the Black Lives Matter sign in the front yard, rightfully so. 2 weeks later, the garage door is open and I see it hanging on the wall. Right. Why is it on the wall? You don't feel as passionately about that this week? And my friend who happens to, he's, in terms of race, African American, Black, whatever you want to call him, you can tell this is not a hot topic now, but it was before.
Right.
And when I ever talked about this kind of stuff with him, he's like, yeah, I hope my Black life is mattering in 2 weeks from now. Right. That's great. I'm glad this is happening. It really needs to happen. The attention needs to be called to this. And I just hope, in 2 weeks from now, the signs are still out.
Right.
Yeah. I'll add something to this. The person in the HOA next to me, they spray painted their fence with Black Lives Matter, so it couldn't be removed. And the HOA came in and took it down.
The old guy in the golf cart.
I mean,
we just had a guy here because I'm in Helsinki. I'm in Finland, so clearly, I'm facing the threat of war at the moment. Like, I'm not in Ukraine. We just talked to Heli from.
Oh, that was crazy.
And she's in Kiev. So I'm not trying to sound like I'm in that situation. But oh my God, my trail of thought just completely went.
That's
like
what
this.
weed does, man.
Haven't smoked shit yet today.
The Russians have not fared well trying to invade Finland in the past.
Yeah, but what the hell were we just talking about? I'm so sorry to derail this like this.
Everything.
Everything.
And
this
absolutely
podcast
everything.
went in a direction I wasn't.
We're trying to steer the conversation in the most dangerous direction possible, so one of us can get in trouble.
All right, so I'll play the middle ground. Let's talk about a novel concept here. Misery Index.
Oh, hey, what an idea. Let's talk about the band.
We could talk sure, let's go back to that. That's cool. Please, before I create a headline.
No, I would talk to you all day and we could create headlines, and I'm totally into it, but we also run up against time, so I want to at least, carve out maybe 5 minutes for Misery Index, since that's why we're here.
Yeah, cool. I'm down with that.
And Mark only got into it and sat down when we got to the interesting stuff that I brought
I know.
up.
I saw him. He leaned into the camera and he's ready to roll.
Right. Totes. He was like, I don't care about it. Now he's like,
I just don't want to criminalize myself and say the wrong thing, because like ultimately, man, it's like we're all kind of imperfect and like trying to figure this out as we go.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like I'm for, personal freedom and liberty and mutual respect and human rights. That's the bottom line of where I'm coming from. So things going against that is like I'm not so keen on. And also like taking like soft approaches, trendy approaches towards like, trying to help people is, basically wearing a movement like a new pair of shoes. I have a huge problem with that.
No, I agree.
And again, yes, they can be those kinds of people can be helpful to those movements, and I'm not poo-pooing it entirely, but just like as as a character thing is just like, what are you doing? You know, this is not this is not your Instagram story.
Right.
Right. Luckily, we have the
Um,
Instagram stories of the poor Russian rich people, like can't get Chanel anymore. Life is tough. Like, what really goes through minds of people? Like, do they not like get how extremely fucked up that is? You know, there's a war. You have sanctions on you because you're fucking raping and killing fathers, mothers, children. You know, like it's awful, and you're like, Chanel, you asshole, I can't get a new bag. Like how does like, it intrigues me. How does like a mind frame like that happen? Like how much in a bubble do you need to be living in to be able to like spew that shit out without any filter? I don't know.
oh, I don't know, man. It's like just a product of this, you know, endless barrage of like a logarithmic echo chamber ism,
Yeah,
if you will.
I guess it is.
You know,
I guess,
people are a
well,
product of their environment and their thinking is as well, you know,
right.
myself included. So, you know, I don't think you want to like shame people either is the thing. And that's where I come at odds with myself because I have this tendency. It's like, you know, shame on you for this and that. But it's like, really, you know, everyone's just trying to figure it out, man. And,
I have no problem shaming people like that. Shame on you, bitch. Shame on you. Seriously.
So
I'm gonna say this is one of the best podcasts we've done. This is great. I wish we did more like this.
Like
I think it's important to point it. It's important to point it at the behavior and not the person.
Individual, right? No, I agree.
Yeah.
So, Misery Index.
You're going on tour.
So, yeah, we got
You're
a
going
record
on tour
coming
here
out,
in the next month. What's it going to be like to finally get back out on the road and on a proper tour and doing what you do best?
Well, we'll try not to suck and see if we can remember how to play all our songs. And
nervous?
Yeah, we'll see what that's like. Yeah, kind of. We've done some other stuff though. I mean, we did like Full Terror Assault in the States back in like September. We did a show in Baltimore in December with Pig Destroyer. We did a show in Switzerland last month, kind of a fly-in thing. That was like the big, you know, kind of big test, you know, where we're like, you know, you fly in, you don't really know what the hell the qualifications are for your health and exactly. And, you know, you go in like to the train, you're like, no one tells you at the airport or whatever, but like you kind of like use intuition and some Google research and you go like swab your nose at the train station and get a piece of paper and come back and no one asks you for it as you're checking in for your flight home and no one asks you for it, you know, as you're going through security. The only time they ask you for it is at the gate as the plane's about to leave. And that's when they absolutely need that piece of paper that you walked to the train station in downtown Zurich, swab your nose to get. It's strange times, to say the least.
So we're coming up on our time. We're coming up on our time here, but Complete Control is out May 13th, available everywhere.
That's
and
correct.
You guys are going to be on the road.
May 13th.
May 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Is that what it is? It's a Friday the 13th?
Yeah.
That's great. Where's the first show at?
The first show of the tour?
Yeah.
The first show is going to be on May 5th at the Blue Note in Columbia, Missouri.
Nice.
And the next day it goes to Chicago. I think Indianapolis and then Detroit. I could have that backwards. But yeah, we're going across, like basically across Canada, down the East Coast, down to Florida, and back across into Texas. We have some cool shows. I think one of them was like with Hypocrisy. And but yeah, it's us and Origin. Origin's got a new album coming out too.
Yeah.
In June. And so yeah, we're pretty excited, man.
From what I've heard of Complete Control, I
tour.
love it. Yeah, I love what I've heard already. I'm been a fan forever. We're just south of you here, and I'm in Richmond. Been a long time fan, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks.
Heavy metal.
Yeah, I hope that wasn't too bad, man. We're all over the place, but I thought it was great.
That was a great interview, dude. That was really good. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. I hope I don't get in trouble.
No, you won't get in trouble. You didn't say anything bad.
No,
I think the tendency is like just to not talk about any of that stuff and just metal, bro, beer and shit.
Right. Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah, you're gonna be, just say shit. Like, that this we could have covered cancel culture as well, And again, like,
It's we could have gone a lot of different ways. And it's okay to just have fun too. Again, I'm not trying to poo-poo on stuff. Like they have that tendency to poo-poo on you. But yeah, it's fine. Everybody's fine. Everybody's fine. I'm the asshole. Everyone else is fine.
Right.
And I'm gonna go scream in a microphone for a month.
All right,
These
man.
guys
Thank
always
you for
blame
taking
me.
the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Be
Have a
safe
good
on
day,
the road.
man. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Enjoy the tour
Yes.
and good luck with everything.